You were the partner at CoinFund. You were there for 3 years. You were also the vice president for an exchange-traded product organization. After that, you were also like a founder of a crypto project, right? Your life has been a typical finance bro, I have to say the least. Before we dive into all of this, who is Austin and what's his story?
So I took an interesting route into crypto and into running a fund. I've always been fascinated by financial markets and by investing. Made my first trade in equity markets when I was 10.
Wow.
Started trading options when I was 16 and went to school to study finance in undergrad knowing that I wanted to manage capital down the line. And then did some banking and trading internships. I worked at UBS and JP Morgan and Lazard and realized that, actually this is less interesting than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
So one of my really close friends in college and roommates in college worked at a bunch of different startups, worked at First Round Capital, started a bunch of different startups, and kind of pushed me down that path. And instead of working at an investment bank after college, I ended up joining a relatively early stage cross-border payments company called Payoneer. Worked there under the CFO and CEO doing corporate development, data analytics, financial analysis, and was there for 5 years as the company scaled up from 17 people in the headquarters, about 60 people total, to 1,200 people globally. ARR grew to $400 million. But during that time, kind of came across crypto. Ethereum was what really pulled me in 2016, although first came across it in 2013, and got the bug. Left my job at Payoneer to start a crypto protocol in 2018. As you mentioned, was at 21 Shares, leading finance and strategy. Then joined CoinFund, became a partner, investing across liquid and venture, and then started my own thing earlier this year.
That's a lot to unpack. Let's take it slowly, right? So you grew up in Connecticut, right? And you made your first trade at 10. Tell me, how did that happen?
Yeah, so my grandparents passed away in their 90s, so they lived a very long, great life.
Yeah.
And they passed a small amount of money to me, nothing major. And at that time, this was before really index funds were really large, my parents thought, well, instead of just putting in a bond, it's worthwhile for me and my brother to learn about financial markets and to trade. My mom has a background in capital markets, my dad as well as being a corporate attorney. My very first trade was to buy shares in Microsoft on September 10th, 2001.
Wow, you remember the date?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a crazy day, obviously, the very next day, September. And, was watching CNBC in the morning, saw the planes hit, and, markets were closed for a week after that. So yeah, literally right here you can see Freedom Tower.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got exposed to a lot of volatility really early on. There was something about being able to track financials, track real indicators of how a company was performing and being able to make informed decisions on that I found really interesting. This is just as we were coming off of the tech bubble. I actually made my first trade over the phone. It was pre-internet brokers. I'm not so old, but I was right at the cusp of that. Eventually online brokers and otherwise. But yeah, started investing in Cisco, bought Amazon at $7.
Wow.
Learned a lot about, if you have conviction in something, hold it, because I should have held my Amazon since $7.
Yeah.
And then when I was 16, started trading options, more as both a way to express leverage and additional conviction on my highest conviction views.
When you were in your school, you founded your investments club, right? Then when you went to college in Wharton, you were in the investments club again. So you always wanted to be a VC, was it?
Yeah, so I started the investment club at Dalton, where I went to school. I won the investment competition based on incredible performance in First Solar. For anyone that was trading in 07, 08, solar stocks were just ripping. And then started the Wharton Investment Club, studied finance undergrad there, and mentioned all those different internships, and then kind of took a U-turn by joining an early stage startup. The traditional path to venture or to working at a fund is 2 years investment banking, and then moving over to one of those roles. But I wanted to do something that was a little bit more interesting, gave me differentiated exposure and experience, and that's the path I took.
Nice. How did you find crypto?
Yeah, it's a funny story actually. Just as I was graduating school in 2013, my brother was invited to a poker game and the buy-in was Bitcoin. It was one of those OG poker games. At that time, Bitcoin was $40, so the buy-in was 1 Bitcoin. My brother ended up winning the game and calls me afterwards and says, I won something called Bitcoin, but I don't really know what
Which
it is.
year was this?
This was April 2013. So it was kind of just as Bitcoin was making its run to 100, then pulled back, and then in November of that year made its first run to 1,000. I helped him set up the custody and the wallets and everything, and then started working cross-border payments. So, it was definitely tangentially related and kept track of it, but more from a price and markets perspective.
Right.
And it wasn't really till I came across Ethereum in 2016, a decentralized global state machine for application building, really piqued my interest. And then that's when I started going to a bunch more meetups, working with some teams, investing more actively. But yeah, it was 2013, random circumstances, but I think a lot of people made their first investment, or at least got first exposed to crypto through poker.
It's either gambling or drugs. Right?
Poker being the third.
Poker
Yeah, there's a lot of sports betting people in the early days as well.
All right, so it's 2013, now you know what Bitcoin is. Let's go chronologically in your life. Where are you in life and what did you do next?
Yeah, so just graduated from school, started working at a company called Payoneer, focused on doing cross-border payments for companies like Amazon, Airbnb, freelancing companies. At that time, the company was about to do its first large US capital raise, rebuilt their models to help them do that raise. We ended up raising $25 million from Susquehanna, and then down the lane, a bunch of other capital raises, $300 million in total, and grew with the company. Incredible place to learn. Had an incredible mentor named Michael Levine, who's now the CFO of Fireblock. So he made his way into crypto over time as well.
Yeah. So you were the vice president of finance at 21 Shares, which is like an exchange-traded product company, right?
Yeah.
Everyone has heard ETFs. What is it exactly?
An ETF is an exchange-traded fund, and it allows people to invest in equity capital markets, in other sorts of assets in a much easier way, where you package the assets underneath it. And it can be something a lot of people are familiar with, for example, like S&P 500 ETF, right, where that is a proxy for the S&P 500 index, and it allows investors to get easy exposure to that. You can have ETFs for commodities, you can have ETFs for other baskets of stocks. Yeah. It was really a monumental undertaking over the last couple of years to work with the SEC to get ETFs approved in the United States for crypto assets. The first one went live in January. That was Bitcoin, and we've had $20 billion of net inflows since then, which makes it one of the most successful ETF launches in US history. The Ethereum ETF went live earlier this summer.
So after 21 Shares, you were at CoinFund for 3 years, right? How did you find CoinFund and how did that happen?
Yeah, so I was at CoinFund for 3.5 years, joined in DeFi summer, and actually connected with one of the partners because we were in the same Telegram group.
Okay.
And they were looking to
TradFi bros use Telegram as well?
Yeah, well, it's not entirely TradFi because I was startup since the beginning.
Okay.
But yeah, it was actually a really cool Telegram group of some interesting founders and investors in the space. They said they were looking for some new investors to join. And then we jumped a call. They asked, well, can you write an investment memo? We want to see how you present a thesis. And then later that day, just wrote a 10-page memo. So we just really clicked on philosophy, on where markets were headed, on investment style. So I ended up joining September of 2020, 7th person at CoinFund. Still very early days, and then quickly became a principal, became a partner, investing across both the liquid fund, seed stage fund, and the Series A fund. And yeah, it was an incredible journey.